Willson Contreras has a fractured forearm and will miss the next 6 to 8 weeks. Let's discuss on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Wednesday, May 8th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White, and Willson Contreras suffered a fractured left forearm and will miss the next 6 to 8 weeks. Pretty big blow because Contreras was playing well, batting .280 with 6 home runs and a .949 OPS. My guess is that Ivan Herrera will get as much run as he could handle and hits the ball really hard. Could make a factor in 2-catcher leagues. But what about in 1-catcher league, Scott? Who are some replacements that you'd be looking at? Names like Logan O'Hoppe, Travis d'Arnaud, Elias Diaz, Bo Naylor, Tyler Stevenson, Mitch Garver are all under 75% rostered.
Yeah, so of those, my favorite would be Logan O'Hoppe, who I think is only as available as he is because in 1-catcher leagues, every team just needs one catcher, right? So we're in an era where catcher is deep, certainly by a 1-catcher league context, and so somebody has to get forced out. I think that's been O'Hoppe. Easy choice if he's available. If he's not available, again, because catchers are so disposable in 1-catcher leagues, I have no issue going with the hot hand play. Elias Diaz, if the Rockies are home, he always hits well there. Travis d'Arnaud, while Sean Murphy is on the IL, he's getting plenty of run. But in the long run, if you're going to be more long-term focused, I think Mitch Garver and Bo Naylor, I still have hope for them to reach their upside this year. Obviously, they've been useless so far, but it's a long season. I imagine they're going to get hot enough at some point that they'll be scooped up in a bunch of leagues again. Doesn't mean you have to suffer with them now, but again, if you're more long-term minded, they might be the better choices. I'm also not totally opposed to just going with Ivan Herrera in a 1-catcher league, whose exit velocity readings are very impressive. He has a prospect pedigree. Not really great on base skills, which might hold him back in points leagues, especially. And I'm not saying he's a surefire big time breakout here, but you could see a path to a breakout for Ivan Herrera, and certainly in 2-catcher leagues, he's your best choice to pick up.
Yeah, that's where I was going next. In 2-catcher leagues, Ivan Herrera is only 12% rostered, so he is the obvious replacement. But outside of him, is there anyone else that stands out? One of the Blue Jays, one of the Yankees, one of the Pirates?
Basically them, yeah. Danny Jansen, specifically from the Blue Jays tandem, has looked good since returning and has been getting the majority of the playing time there. But I'm not totally out on Alejandro Kirk. It's mostly the playing time that brings him down in my eyes. And yeah, the Pirates tandem, Joey Bart's been hitting for power. That's what forced Henry Davis back to the minors. Now Yasmani Grandal is back off the IL, so it's unclear how the playing time is going to shake out between the two of them. But in 2-catcher leagues, they may have some utility, and they would be behind the Blue Jays tandem for me, but they would be viable options. Also, Ben Rortvedt, you brought this up on the full length podcast, playing more than I think everyone expected with the Rays, and at least hitting for average so far. It's more of a 15-team 2-catcher league option, but if you have to go that deep, Ben Rortvedt is somebody to look at.
3 waiver wire pitchers who pitched very well on Tuesday. Cristopher Sanchez has been dropped in enough leagues where he could be available in a shallower sized format, and he threw 7 innings of 1-run ball with 5 strikeouts. Patrick Sandoval has made 2 strong starts in a row. He was at the Pirates where he threw 7 shutout innings with 7 strikeouts and 17 swinging strikes. And then Frankie Montas returned with a great start against the D-backs, 6 innings, 2 runs. One of those was earned with 7 strikeouts to 1 walk. His velocity was up across the board. Scott, how would you rank Sanchez, Sandoval, and Montas?
I'd rank them exactly as you listed them all. Sanchez, Sandoval, and Montas. Sandoval is pretty close to must roster for me. And 77% rostered. It would have to be a pretty shallow league where he's available. The ground ball rate for him has been elite, even better than last year. It's really just, is he going to be as big of a strike thrower now that he's throwing harder? And that's been a concern this year, but in this start, he threw 66% of his pitches for strikes. That's obviously good enough. He got a good result. I still think things could go very well for Cristopher Sanchez moving forward. I am intrigued by Sandoval because he's basically ditched his four-seamer. Like, it was his most used pitch through 4 starts, and it's been his least used pitch. He threw 3 in this most recent start, four-seamers, going with the changeup, slider, good swing and miss pitches. The swings and misses have been up in his last 2 starts especially, but a 3-star trend of him doing this. And all the ERA estimators look good for Sandoval too. I still think there are going to be a lot of walks and maybe shorter starts because of it. But if you have a spot to play with, he's worth looking into. I'm not totally dismissive of Montas either. His velocity was up 2 miles per hour or so on all of his pitches in his return from the IL. Still wasn't getting a lot of whiffs, but yeah, he's got a great track record, and his velocity is going to be that good. His splitter is still getting whiffs at a nice rate. I could see Montas still getting on track and having a nice season. It's just there are so many quality starting pitchers out there, more than can be rostered in a 12-team league, I would say, that Montas may not quite make the cut.
All right, for more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Odyssey app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.